So let's take a look at Chapter 6. We're going to do Lesson 1 and Lesson 2 today. Lexington and Concord were the first of many battles, and that's what we talked about at the end of the last lesson, where the British were trying to disarm us. The colonists were determined to win their independence, and the British were determined to keep us under control. They felt like they invested a lot of money and time in these colonies, and they wanted to maintain control of those. So, when news of Lexington and Concord spread throughout the colonies, people were furious. They found out that the British soldiers were attacking innocent people and burning their homes. Now keep in mind, this is a trained army, and they are probably the strongest army in the world. Our people that are fighting against them are just these Minutemen, who are volunteer soldiers. So when people hear about, these atrocities that are being committed towards us, it actually unifies many of the colonists. So the British know that if we don't have any weapons, we can't fight. So they want to disarm us. So they are trying to intercept and take any shipments of weapons we have coming in. So when we see this happening, we say we cannot let them take our weapons. We end up seizing some military supplies that are getting shipped to Great Britain. So if they're going to steal our weapons, we're going to steal theirs. We also know that if we are going to fight against the British, we need more soldiers, and we need them quick. So many of the colonies work to increase the size of their militia. And a militia is a volunteer army. It's basically soldiers that are just willing to fight. They might have some small amount of training or no training at all. Massachusetts was the first colony to take military action. They wanted to protect their people. And they knew that if they could take over these two military forts, Fort Crown Point and Fort Ticonderoga, it would be really helpful to them because it would stop the British from getting more supplies through Canada. So Ethan Allen and the Green Mountain Boys and Benedict Arnold go to both of these forts, and the British are not expecting them. They're able to take these forts without having to fire a single shot. So we go there expecting a fight, and they're not prepared for us. We take these forts very easily. And the forts are important for a couple of reasons. It boosts our confidence, and we also are able to steal ammunition and cannons. So on May 10th, 1775, the same day that Fort Ticonderoga was seized, the Second Continental Congress begins in Philadelphia. And this is going to be a meeting of some of our most important leaders trying to figure out what we're going to do about the British. They choose John Hancock to be the president of this meeting, not the president of the country. We don't have one yet. He's in charge of this meeting. Benjamin Franklin just got back. He was working for Great Britain, and he resigned that position. So we have all of these important people showing up. Some colonists still do not want to fight against the British, even though they're burning houses down and attacking innocent people. They think we would be better off to try to solve this peacefully. So they send the king a petition. And a petition is a document written and signed by many people saying they support it. So they basically sent the king a letter with a whole bunch of signatures on it saying that they were still loyal to the king, but they would not accept any unfair laws. So they're telling the king, we can work with you, but you have to treat us fairly. The king says, nah, he doesn't make any changes. So now the Americans have a clear choice. Do they give up their freedom and accept the British rule, or do they fight against the British and try to become, their own independent, respected country? So let's take a look at Lesson 2, just a couple more pages. Congress knows we got to have some form of government to stay organized. Because normally the king was in charge, but if we're not listening to him anymore, we need a set of rules. After many days of debates, the delegates decided Congress had the power to do a couple of things. Congress, their responsibility was to protect us against future attacks. They could declare war, and the big thing they wanted is they did not want Congress to interfere with the private matters. So basically, the government shouldn't get involved in people's lives unless necessary. They also know we have to get an army ready. So when they're getting an army, they try to figure out who is the best leader we have. And the guy they end up picking is George Washington. So George Washington becomes the official commander of our army. They also sent out a plea to the colonies, and a plea is when you ask someone for something. They are asking the 13 colonies to send soldiers and supplies, basically saying we need help to get ready for this. The war was beginning. So Congress takes steps to join the 13 colonies together, because if we're going to beat the British, we need to be together. We can't all be separate colonies looking out for our best interest. They also know that communication is going to be important, and they choose Benjamin Franklin to be the postmaster, which means he's in charge of running the mail for the United States. Well, not the United States yet, for the colonies. We also have to organize a navy to attack the British ships, because the British have more warships than any other country, and we have none. So after the fighting at Lexington and Concord, thousands of Minutemen were waiting around Boston. We wanted to retake Boston. The governor of Boston, General Gage, he was British, he issues out an order saying that Boston is under complete control of the British Army. He also offers a pardon to any colonists who say they're loyal to the king. So he's basically talking to the people, saying, we know you don't want to fight. If you apologize and say you're loyal to the king, we'll forget about those crimes you committed. So he offers this pardon to all these colonists, and no one accepts it. So General Gage knows he's got to protect Boston if he wants to keep it. So he plans to get ready and prepare for our attack. Well, what happens is we see him preparing, and it's a race. We want to get ready to attack before he can prepare. So on June 17th, 1775, British warships attack Boston Harbor, and the British expect an easy victory, but they don't get it. We are able to hold our ground. British General William Howe, he's got very little, he's running out of soldiers, and he was not expecting this kind of, pushback from us. They were expecting this to be an easy fight. The Americans are running out of ammunition, and we're running out of gunpowder, so we end up waiting until the British get very close. The guns are not very accurate. We don't want to waste what precious bullets we have. And when the British get close, we all fire, and we're able to do a huge amount of damage and actually turn the British back. So the British run. So after the British come back and regroup, the British are actually able to defeat us in the battle. General Gage says, "One more victory like that will destroy us." And that's an interesting quote, because the British won, but what he's saying is the cost of that win was very, very dire. So that would be like if you get into a fight with somebody, and at the end of the fight, you win, but you got a black eye and you're missing 3 teeth and 2 of your fingers are broken. You won the fight, but that was a big cost to you. And you can't keep getting victories like that. Those injuries will stack up. And that's what he's saying. We cannot keep fighting like that because it's going to be too much damage for us to maintain. 2 weeks after the Battle of Bunker Hill, George Washington says we need to get our soldiers ready. And he takes many of these volunteer soldiers and gets them trained to be actual soldiers. The Americans brought the cannons that we took from Fort Ticonderoga, and we surround Boston, and we want to retake it. So once the British see that it's surrounded and we have cannons pointed at them, they end up retreating and letting us retake Boston. Okay guys, so now we need to go into Google Classroom, and you are going to work on Chapter 6, Lesson 1 and 2 worksheet. Let's get started.